What's going to happen in Deltarune chapters 3 to 5? Well, short answer, we don't know yet. That doesn't mean I can't make my own predictions. I'm gonna try and keep from making huge important plot points, as that would be more like fanfic than predictions. That being said though, I won't be shy of making smaller plot points. So to start off, what's with the dark fountain Kris creates at the end of chapter 2? I want to believe that this is just another fake out like chapter 1's ending, but would Toby really do that twice in a row? Maybe. It's Toby, you can expect anything from that guy. But if it's not another fake out, I think that chapter 3 will start again with Toriel talking to Kris, and questioning why the house is so dark. Then just like her screaming no in chapter 2's intro, I believe she will scream in fear as they fall into the dark world. As for what this dark world is, it's obviously going to be based on either the TV in the living room, or the entire house. I'm going to say that the dark world will mainly be focused on the TV, but there will be some sections based on other parts of the house. And I really want Susie to wake up and say, "God damn it, Kris, where the hell are we?" There's talk about Toriel joining our party in chapter 3, and while I do believe this will also happen, I don't think it will happen instantly. My prediction is that Toriel will follow the party like Noelle did in chapter 2. I had this idea that during the first encounter of chapter 3 while Toriel is following you, she won't enter the battle, but will judge the kids based on if they recruit or lose the enemy. This feels like something Toby would do, especially since Toriel is the mother of Kris and is friends with Kris and Susie's teacher. When the party eventually reunites with Ralsei, I want to think that Toriel will mistake him for Asriel, but I don't think Toby would do this, so let's say that she will ask if he's a friend of Kris's, and will say that she doesn't recognize him from school. Ralsei will start to say that he is from Castletown, but Susie will shut him up and say that he's new to the school. If we're gonna follow that Kris and Susie's classmates will appear in each chapter's Dark World, I'm gonna say that Monster Kid and Snowy will make an appearance. But for chapter 3, I don't think any of the classmates will show up. Instead, I think that Undyne, Napstablook, and Asgore will be there. Undyne scouted the outside of the house, only showing up after the Dark Fountain is sealed, but we'll get into that later. Napstablook would have searched the inside of the house and ended up in the Dark World. And Asgore, being the former chief of police, will also show up and check if Toriel and Kris are alright. This prediction is backed up by the screenshot where Susie tells Kris that his family is goddamn weird. As for why Undyne won't be in the Dark World, we'll get to that at the end of chapter 3. About midway through the chapter, the party will meet up with Asgore and Napstablook, with him helping Blookie with the search. This will probably lead to awkward interactions between Toriel and Asgore, which will lead to Toriel leaving the group. Kris will follow behind her, while Ralsei and Susie go with Asgore and Napstablook. This is where Toriel will join the party with Kris, and start the option for this chapter's weird route. Meanwhile with the other group, I want to think that Susie ends up asking about the incident that caused Undyne to replace Asgore, which might also be backed with the previous screenshot, but the player doesn't know about this until chapter 4, which we'll get into later. Anyways, while Kris and Toriel are together, she will start to question if she's just having a bad dream. She will continue to tell herself this during the weird route where the player will use Kris to manipulate her, but let's ignore the weird route for now, and regroup with Susie and the rest of them. At this point, Asgore and Napstablook have left them, and Susie and Ralsei went to look for Kris. Susie's ultimate healing has also gotten stronger for being with Ralsei again. With Ralsei and Susie rejoining the party, Toriel will be removed, but will still follow them around. But at this time, we're almost ready to fight against the final boss of this chapter, Mike. If we follow that the secret boss of the last chapter mentioned the main boss of the next chapter, it'll mean that Mike will be this chapter's main boss. Upon defeating him though, Kris and Susie seal the fountain, and all of them are returned to Kris's living room. Here they all wake up, and Undyne comes to the front door, saying that everything is clear. Napstablook will look at her, but will be too shy to say anything about the Dark World, thus Undyne still not believing in them. Toriel will still believe that it was just a dream, but will be confused when Asgore is in her house. She will brush it off though, and then freak out because she, Kris and Susie, are late for school. She will rush out and drive them over, and they all join their classes. Alphys will say that she thought Kris and Susie weren't coming that day, and they go to their seats. Kris will once again fall asleep, and the game will resume after class. Here you will get the choice of either returning to Castletown to see all your recruits of this chapter, or you can return home with Susie where the two of them part ways. As for what happens in this chapter's ending, I actually have no clue how this one will end. Obviously, Kris will most likely rip their soul out again and do something by themselves, but I have nothing to go off of. If you've made it this far in the video, please consider subscribing. It's 100% free, and help us channel a ton. And here starts chapter 4 where we have much less information. But this is where I think that the leaked screenshots will be. Now it's the weekend, and Kris and Susie meet up in the town. After a bit it starts to rain, so they go inside the diner, where Susie tells Kris that their family is goddamn weird. When the rain stops, they will explore the town somewhere and discover the next Dark World. And I got no clue where the hell this one would be. But if I'm basing this one off of the screenshots, it seems to be either based off of TV or a stage play. So let's just say that the previous Dark World was based on the entire house, and this one is specifically TV. Because we have much less info and speculation to go off of for this chapter, my predictions for chapters 4 and 5 will be much shorter than chapter 3. Anyways, the start of this Dark World will not have Ralsei in it. Ralsei will definitely show up at some point, but I think it will happen midway through the chapter rather than at the start. This will let there be a Dark World where Kris and Susie can adventure together instead of Susie always going with Ralsei. I think the main idea of this Dark World is going to be dressing up and hiding from the chapter's main boss. But that's literally all I have to go off of for this chapter. Kris will once again steal the fountain and rip out their skull at the end. And then the final chapter of the next release. I think this chapter will start with Susie and Kris meeting in town to work on their group project. They will meet up with Noelle and Berdly, also working on their project, and Noelle will invite them all to their house to work on their group projects. Why aren't they going to the library again? Because this is way more cool and we can see Noelle's house. When Kris and Susie go to leave, they will find the next Dark World, and I feel bad because I literally have nothing to go off of for this Dark World. So to stay away from just fanfic, let's skip straight to when Kris and Susie steal the fountain. Upon returning to the Light World, Kris and Susie will return to Castletown, where their world starts to shake, and the Darkeners are turned to stone. Dark fountains are being created rapidly out in the distance. Susie looks at Kris and tells them that they need to hurry, before the balance of light and dark are completely shifted. The two of them sprint out of Castletown, where this chapter is brought to a close. And there we go. This is all my predictions for the next 3 chapters of Deltarune. Let me know your own predictions in the comments, as I'd love to hear them. And thanks for sticking all the way to the end, and goodbye.